Okay, we'll start with this, our last look at the Shannon Ryan versus Nicola Hopewell fight set to go down tomorrow afternoon on the undercard of what is a Matchroom show scheduled for 10 rounds in the women's super flyweight division for what is the IBF Intercontinental Super Flyweight title. The winner of the fight comes one step closer to challenging the full champion, Irma Garcia, who was in action not that long ago on an MVP show opposite the ring of then unbeaten Emma Doolin. Coincidentally, Emma Doolin gave both Shannon Ryan and Nicola Hopewell their lone defeats. Shannon Ryan sports a professional record of 10 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 11 professional bouts. 29 years old. To Nicola Hopewell, who is 34, sporting a professional record of 8 wins with 1 loss and no draws, 1 recorded knockout, having never been knocked out in 9 professional bouts. Just about the same level of experience and the same number of fights. Pretty close to Shannon Ryan, though a bit older, longer in the tooth.
She's 34 years old.
Last in action, in July of last year opposite the ring, Marie Connon, who she decisioned over 10 rounds in what was her second fight that year. She fought once in March, then again in July, then sat out the rest of the year. In that way, it's been about 10 months since Nicola last saw action.
That's a pretty long layoff.
Most of the time, her handlers do a halfway decent job of keeping her active and keeping her busy, as she fought 3 times in 2024, 2 times last year, currently on a 5-fight winning streak after having dropped a decision to Emma Doolin in October of 2023. Shannon Ryan was last in action in October of last year opposite the ring Chloe Watson, who she won a technical decision against in a contest that was stopped prematurely due to a clash of heads, I believe.
And a gross hematoma forming on the side of Chloe Watson's face, though 4 rounds having been completed. That was enough for the judges' scorecards to be read, and for Shannon Ryan to be awarded the decision. If you saw that fight that didn't last very long, Shannon was bossing it. She dominated all 4 of those rounds.
Now, is she going to dominate Nicola Hopewell tomorrow? She might. Nicola Hopewell, like Shannon Ryan, is a mid-range to inside fighter. A little bit taller and a little bit longer.
Nicola is the rangier fighter of the two, but I don't think she's going to be able to keep Shannon Ryan out or keep her off. I think Shannon is going to do what she does. Crash the pocket, throw punches mid-range to inside, be tricky about it, staying off that center line.
She's a very short, stumpy, stocky fighter for super flyweight. That lower center of gravity gives her very good balance, and when she's changing levels and staying off center, she can make herself a hard target. So I see a situation where Shannon Ryan is going to close the distance, and I don't think Nicola Hopewell's going to get gun-shy so much as get outgunned. That she's quick, but Shannon is quicker, and she's strong, but Shannon is stronger.
So I think Nicola's going to engage here and there to try to fight Shannon Ryan off, and that's where Shannon's going to have success. That's where she's going to do her best work.
I don't know if Shannon Ryan gets a stoppage. I don't know if she knocks out Nicola Hopewell, but conservatively, I think she can win a points decision. At minimum, I think that she can do that, and she's really been coming along, improving since that loss to Emma Doolin in June of 2024.
Currently on a 3-fight winning streak. If she wins tomorrow, she comes one step closer to challenging for the full IBF title against Irma Garcia, who just beat Emma Doolin.
What are the odds that Shannon Ryan will have better luck against that same Irma Garcia than Emma did? That is a fight that could end up happening before the year is out. If Shannon wins tomorrow, there's plenty of time left in the calendar year to do the fight between her and Irma.
They really want to push it. They really want to go for it.
You know what I would say? I would say, if Shannon wins tomorrow, get her one more fight before she fights Irma. Get her one more. Not a difficult one either, just to keep the momentum going and give her another opportunity to sharpen her skills, work on things before the big one. The super flyweight division is a deep division where there is a lot going on. A lot going on at MVP, a lot going on at Matchroom. It's going down tomorrow, and I expect Shannon Ryan to hold up her end of the bargain. I expect her to make it past Nicola Hopewell. It's just a question of how. Does she make a statement and knock her out, or does she win on points? We'll find out shortly. Now, as it pertains to another fight set to go down tomorrow, David Benavidez came in below the cruiserweight limit for his divisional debut. The unbeaten WBC light heavyweight champion stepped on the Nevada State Athletic Commission scale at 196.8 pounds, 3+ under the cruiserweight cap of 200 for his divisional debut against Zurdo Ramirez tomorrow night at the T-Mobile Arena. Ramirez, who weighed exactly at 200 pounds, will defend his WBA and WBO titles against Benavidez in the main event of a pay-per-view show on Amazon's Prime Video, and DAZN will distribute it in the United States at a price point of $79.99.
Remember that it is a co-promotion, co-promoted between Golden Boy Promotions, who promotes Zurdo, and the PBC, who promote David.
Phoenix's David Benavidez, also a former WBC super middleweight champion, will compete above the light heavyweight limit of 175 pounds for the first time. Mexico's Ramirez is 4-0 at cruiser since October of 2023. DraftKings lists Benavidez as an almost 4-1 favorite to become champion in a third weight class. He is ranked at number 7 on the Ring's pound-for-pound list and is our number 1 contender for Dimitri Bivol Ring Magazine light heavyweight title, still making promises about returning to that division beyond this weekend's fight, and we'll see about that.
Boxers are a lot like politicians. Ahead of an election, ahead of a fight, they'll say almost anything.
Make all sorts of promises they may or may not follow through on.
Because Zurdo is big. Zurdo is a champion in many weight classes. He's only lost to Bivol. And there is a risk here. You've never fought a cruiserweight, you know? So if you come in here and make a statement with this win, with the way, first of all, if you win, if you make a statement with the way you get Zurdo, I really think that, you know, the world becomes Benavidez's oyster. I mean, the next week, we could really be talking about Benavidez in a really incredible light if he's able to do what we've seen him do against other guys, do that now against Zurdo. But it's not as easy as we've made it seem. You know what I mean? There is things that are upset about Zurdo, including that southpaw stance.
Hey, Paulie, you know something?
More of that token vote of confidence that David Benavidez has been getting for years now, on the premise that if he wins tomorrow and he does it in good fashion, the world becomes his oyster thereafter. But I don't remember the world becoming Dimitri Bivol's oyster after he beat Zurdo Ramirez. And not just beat him, he dominated him. I don't remember Zurdo winning a single round in that fight. Dimitri Bivol pitched a shutout.
And he didn't become the face of boxing or nothing like that. This is after he beats Zurdo, after he beats Canelo Alvarez. Put simply, it's not the way that these guys are putting it.
So I don't think it's that way for David if he wins tomorrow. And I have him winning on the premise that he's faster in the pocket than Zurdo, so he may be able to beat him to the punch there. We'll see.
But I don't think beating Zurdo is all of a sudden this monumental achievement.
It's not a game changer. It didn't change the game for Dimitri, so why would it change the game for David? Make it make sense. Pay-per-view wise, in terms of pay-per-view buys, I'm not really expecting robust numbers for tomorrow's fight because the reception for it has been lukewarm.
The focus in the entire build-up has been on all these other people and all these other things. Canelo, usually.
Sometimes Dimitri, which kind of gives it away. It's what tells the story that the pundits and the fight fans have so little to say and so little to ask about the guy David's actually fighting. Instead, they're focusing on all these other fights and all these other people because they're not as intrigued by tomorrow's fight.
Thus, how many of them can you actually expect to shell out the $75 or $80 for tomorrow's pay-per-view?
Not many. I mean, what's it been, 4 or 5 pay-per-views now? 5 with tomorrow's pay-per-view? I figure that the baseline for a David Benavidez box office fight has got to be somewhere just under 100,000 buys, because if it were more, we would have heard about it. If you do a fight for this guy, and he brings you back 250 or 300,000 buys, they would have been shouting it from the rooftops.
Yeah, we would have heard about it by now. The Plant pay-per-view, the Andrade pay-per-view, Morel, Yard, now Zurdo.
Because David Benavidez is born in the United States, because he is half Ecuadorian, there's a lot of talk of, is he a real Mexican fighter? Do you consider David Benavidez a Mexican fighter?
¿Consideras a David Benavidez un boxeador mexicano, considerando toda la controversia que hay sobre ese tema?
Qué buena pregunta me hiciste, ¿verdad?
What a good question.
No, mira, Benavidez, con todo respeto, pues él es México norteamericano, ¿me entiendes? Habla español, efectivamente, pero en México no es conocido, en México no lo conoce nadie, ¿me entiendes? O sea, con todo respeto, o sea, lo conoce la gente de boxeo, ¿me entiendes? Pero así que tú digas que la gente lo conoce a Benavidez, pues no, la verdad, yo lo considero norteamericano, pero sí, se supone que él tiene raíces mexicanas, habla español, ¿me entiendes? Y ojalá y se gane el cariño y el afecto de todos los mexicanos, porque se lo merece.
With all due respect, Benavidez is Mexican American. He's a great fighter, but in Mexico he's still an unknown, and that's just the way it is. I consider him North American, yes, but I hope that he can be able to be embraced by the Mexican fans and vice versa, and that way he can keep growing.
Ultimately, did, in your eyes, Canelo avoid him? Is that fair to say?
En tus ojos, ante tu perspectiva, ¿Canelo lo está eludiendo a Benavidez?
Pregúntaselo a Canelo, no me preguntes a mí, yo no soy boxeador. Pero se lo pregunta a Canelo, y ¿por qué me lo pregunta a mí?
Ask Canelo, why are you asking me?
See how Chavez sort of snapped towards the end there. Sean Zattel, like many members of the media, trying to keep the focus on Canelo Alvarez for a fight that he's not involved in.
There's 2 fucking cruiserweights fighting tomorrow. What are you still bringing him up for?
It's pretty awkward, but the most awkward portion of the interview is when Chavez says in Mexico he is not known. While a rather large American contingent and so many members of the American boxing media refer to him as the quote-unquote Mexican monster, in Mexico, he's not even known. So what the hell are you guys talking about? A Twitter user who goes by the name Kickback said, yes, a lot of Mexicans feel this way. I was shocked when I had a convo with a few in real life and they said the exact same thing.
I think a lot of members of the media would have already known this if they were actually in the loop instead of attempting to manufacture Mexican icons and Mexican stars from North America in this side of the border. It doesn't work like that, and that's why so much of the promotion for David Benavidez comes off as contrived.
You guys are trying too fucking hard. You know that he's just as much Ecuadorian as he is Mexican, but you didn't call him the Ecuadorian monster. You didn't have him come out there wearing Ecuadorian colors because you're trying so hard to get the Mexican fight fans on board, and usually on Cinco de Mayo weekend, who the fight fans are watching is Canelo.
Who was actually born in Mexico, raised in Mexico. He's a Mexican national, not an American, like David Benavidez.
Creates a very awkward conversation when so much of an individual's cultural identity is tied to a country they weren't actually born in, even if their mother and their father or their mammy and their pappy were born there. You weren't.
There is a distinct difference between having your upbringing in Phoenix, Arizona, and having it south of the border in Sonora y Hermosillo, or Jalisco, or Mazatlan, or Mexico City.
There is a difference, and you don't get to remove that distinction, blur that line for marketing purposes. I mean, listen, you've tried a great deal, but it hasn't worked, has it?
My thing that I'm mad about is, right, if you guys think you're the best in the world, why don't you fight the other best in the world and show the people, like, what the fuck, you guys are getting a lot of money, like, what's the problem?
Hey, they're talking about fighting the best, this and that. Don't fucking talk about it, boys. I'm right here. The winner out of Zerdo and Benavidez. Let's go. Let's make it happen.
In spite of this weekend's contest and its outcome, Jai Opetaia still is this division's Ring Magazine and lineal champion. He's the man who beat the man, so that makes him the man to beat.
Except that David Benavidez is poo-pooing on the idea that they should even meet, saying that that ship has sailed because the IBF stripped him.
Opetaia still owns the Ring Magazine and Zuffa belts, but Benavidez bluntly explained his position during an interview with The Ring. That ship has kind of sailed now, that Opetaia doesn't have the IBF, Benavidez said, because what are we going to fight for? The Zuffa belt? I think the thing happened with Opetaia. It pushed that fight back longer than it has to be. We were probably thinking it would happen in a year. Now we're probably thinking 2 or 3 years. We've got to sit down and see what happens with this whole thing with Zuffa, because it's apparent they're not messing with the WBC, IBF, or any of those titles. At the end of the day, I'm fighting for these titles, so we would have to see what's going to happen for us to make that fight possible.
Yeah, that all sounds good. It sounds like a viable reason now, except when Jai still had his red belt, you weren't in any hurry to fight him then, saying that nobody knows him.
When they asked David Benavidez would he look to fight Jai Opetaia if he beats Zerdo Ramirez when Jai still had his belt, David said no, because nobody knows the guy, so of course he's gonna say this now. The article continues, Benavidez didn't entirely rule out opposing Opetaia eventually. The WBC light heavyweight champion just wishes the 30-year-old champion could have held on to his title. I think Opetaia kind of shot himself in the leg, in my opinion. He already had some great fights set up on the side, Benavidez said. Even once I beat Zurdo, him and Zurdo would be a great fight still. Then he could fight me. There was a lot of great fights, but I don't know what his situation is with Zmufa, or how they're gonna move him. I heard they stripped him of the IBF, so I really do think the best fight for me at cruiser is Zurdo and then Opetaia. I don't know what's going on with promotional companies. It's not my job to go figure out what happened and how we can make this happen. My job is to go and win the belts. It doesn't matter who has them.
Benavidez, 29, intends on returning to the light heavyweight division after he meets Ramirez in a 12-round main event tomorrow on Amazon Prime.
You know, it was just the other day that potato-faced kid, Happy Javi, was castigating Terence Crawford for supposedly not fighting the best fighters at the weights where he's campaigned. This is a big David Benavidez guy, a big David Benavidez fan.
So what he was saying about Crawford actually applies more to David, because David never fought the best fighters or established himself as the best fighter at either 168 or 175. And he's not doing that now by fighting Zurdo. Nobody views Zurdo as the best cruiserweight in the world. They still view Jai.
And they still look at Jai as a more dangerous and more intriguing fight than Zurdo Ramirez. So when you put this thing together and you schedule it for Cinco de Mayo weekend, and the reception for it is still lukewarm, and the day before the fight you haven't even sold out.
Wondering why the reception for your fights is lukewarm. Do you think the boxing fans are dumb and they can't tell when you're being strategic, that you're not actually fighting the best fighters, you just talk about it a lot?
Even if the Zurdo Ramirez fight is all right and he's solid and that's all well and good, he's not the best cruiserweight in the world. So much of the marketing for David Benavidez involves so much angling, and people can tell they're not stupid.
You're marketing him as the Mexican monster, except actual Mexicans don't consider him Mexican. Do you need any more of an authority on the subject than El Gran Campeón?
Than Chavez himself, Mexico's greatest champion, to a lot of people, many of them Mexican.
You've got him hopscotching through these weight classes. Just 3 fights into his light heavyweight campaign, he's moving up to cruiser, and it's not even for the best cruiserweight.
It's for an old sparring partner, a guy he shared over 100 rounds with. And you think people are dumb? They don't know why you're fighting him and not fighting Jai Opetaia. That's why the shit don't work.
That's why I keep telling you, he can win tomorrow. He can beat Zurdo, and in good fashion. But I sincerely doubt he goes on to become the face of boxing, because the foundations have not already been laid. The guy's close to 30 years old.
He doesn't actually have the abundance of opponent options between light heavy and cruiser to keep him in big fights. You could probably count on one hand how many big fights he could have. It's the inconvenient truth. Even I think this weekend's fight is a solid fight against a solid opponent, but all this stuff about David becoming the face, forget it.
Yeah, you can fucking forget it.